You can't even talk about election interference in regard to 2020. You can't even talk about that. I lost my YouTube channel of 8 years because I talked about election interference.
Well, see, this is again what, because they're trying to promote, all this comes back to Herbert Marcuse and repressive tolerance. It comes down to the idea that it's that postmodernist Marxist way of that if you don't have a leg to stand on, you shout your opponent down,
And
or
that's what's happened.
you
We've
shout your,
seen that in the past 4 years, but this was another example of it. Even before, this was back before,
precisely. They were
6 years ago.
They really set the stage for it with this whole, Russia, Russia, Russia nonsense. I mean, it was also to, and it was also to divert any meaningful dialogue around that. And the larger historical point is that elections have always been tainted. They've always been tainted from JFK, back to the days of, Wilson, back to the days of Roosevelt. All the elections, have been tainted and bought and paid for.
But if there was any tainting of the 2016 election, it was on the Hillary Clinton side. And I just think they underestimated Trump. They never thought he would get as many views, as many votes as he did. They just underestimated it.
Well, I think the other thing that you have to realize, and again, this is where I think that was kind of the idea that I think it was even above Hillary's station. They basically, the powers that be basically threw her under the bus because they said, well, let's take advantage of this populist movement against, this white working class populist movement in 2016, and this intense dissatisfaction with the with the leadership class, the neoliberal leadership class. Let's take advantage of this.
How did they take advantage of it?
Well, because again, you have to look at the strategy from a more of a higher view.
It seems like it was a huge setback for their plan.
Not really, because the thing is, that's what, when they, all it really was it was really a temper tantrum on Hillary Clinton's part. And it was as far as the people in the Trump camp, basically the whole thing is the guy didn't, he said he, drained the swamp. He had all the worst swamp creatures in his cabinet.
He didn't know who these people were. These people were foisted on him. If he does the same thing in 2024 this year, then for sure. Well, but I don't think he knew. I don't think he knew Washington at all, but he does now.
Is it fair to believe that you would have a number of your former officials in your new cabinet?
I will put some back. I'll tell you, I came to Washington having spent almost no time in my life in Washington.
I know. You said
and all of a sudden I'm president. And I wasn't into Washington society. So I was not a Washington. I was a New York person. I was a New York builder.
Well, you were an outsider, and that's why
I was a totally
outsider.
But the one problem with that, and I love the outsider thing, but you don't know people, so you're relying on other people to give you names to be the head of this, head of that. And by the way, we had unbelievable people. We had some, look, I rebuilt the military.
Yeah, but your critics say you had plenty of personnel mistakes.
No, of course, but everybody does. Obama had. What about Biden? Look at the people running this Biden thing. The difference is I fire people. I fired Comey. I got rid of him.
You didn't fire Christopher Wray.
Well, you know what? At the time, I don't know. Let's see what the final judgment is. But I didn't fire Christopher Wray. I didn't fire people I would have, but I fired a lot of people. I had turnover. They have no turnover right now.
How do you know if you get back in, you don't have a network of people around you working against you.
I will, and so will anybody else that gets in as a Republican. These people are sick. These are sick people.
Well, but see, the thing is, you got to remember, what's Trump's big thing? The art of the deal, right? So he probably was read into a certain degree on, well, if we're going to do this, and we're going to throw you these couple other crumbs, to make your.
What crumbs did he get, man? He lost like over $1 billion, and now he's just been fined $350 million. Like he needs just like a hole in the head, man.
Again, you gotta look at all this really as it's smoke and mirrors, really. When you look,
I've never seen this kind of smoke and mirrors. They're not doing this to Biden. Let's look at the contrast.
Look, here's the other thing. You say they're not doing this to Biden. Look, Biden outlived his usefulness, and they're going to throw him under the bus.
Absolutely, but that was always the plan. Man.
But this is my point, Mark, is that you got to look at this without any fealty to either side or either because the thing is he's really not, there's a certain point that these people are read in to, they might not be read into 100%, but they're read in up to 90%. And the thing is that, all these guys are going to think that okay, I have to compromise this or that or the other thing to get this. But see, this is where right away that should tell you how corrupt and rotting the whole system is. It is. It absolutely is. But look, here's the thing about the rotten system. There was not one court who would even listen to the evidence, the mountains of evidence about the election fraud in 2020. They wouldn't even listen to it. Oh, but again, look at this media. Look at this in the long game sense of things. Look at all of that. Everything that you're saying, that was to really foment the resentment and anger in the base to start setting up the idea for really ripping the country apart and getting to a civil war point, which is what they're pushing even further. Look at that.
They are pushing that.
Yeah, and look at everything that you're saying.
But the other aspect is because they stole the election and they're hiding it. Well, they're hiding it. Of course, they have to hide it.
Of course, they're hiding it. But the thing is, it's not for the reasons that you're saying.
Well, it may be.
That's my point.
Let's look at this and let's look at how the media handled Trump as opposed to how they're now handling Biden. Let's have a look at that. Let's have a look. To me, this is comical.
On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also saying that the president.
It's such a racist question.
The perception of you that got you elected as a moral, decent man is the reason why a lot of immigrants are coming to this country and entrusting you with unaccompanied minors.
I guess I should be flattered. People are coming because I'm the nice guy. That's the reason why it's happening.
Now the Republican Party is seen as supporting white nationalists because of your rhetoric. What do you make of that?
I don't believe it. I don't know. Why do I have my highest poll numbers ever with African Americans?
How do you see your role as a moral leader? Mr. President, how do you see your role as a moral leader?
Go ahead. That's enough.
Ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am.
Excuse me. That's enough.
What do you say to Americans who are watching you right now who are scared?
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.
Okay. Hang on. Sorry. Oh, Seung-min, Miss Kim.
Michael Cohen recently said you called black voters stupid.
That's false.
Omarosa has accused you of using the N-word, and the rapper Little John has said you called him Uncle Tom. What's your response?
I don't know who Little John is.
He was on The Apprentice.
I don't know. Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Have you ever made racist remarks?
No, I would never do that, and I don't use racist remarks.
The best way to get something done If you hold near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway.
Why are you pitting Americans against one another, sir?
I'm not.
Is that how you view
No, I'm not.
citizens
Well,
of
look,
this country?
I'll tell you what, we won a lot of elections last night.
Republicans who are passing bill after bill, trying to restrict voting rights. Chuck Schumer is calling it an existential threat to democracy. Why not back a filibuster rule?
I believe we should go back to a position of the filibuster that existed just when I came to the United States Senate 120 years ago. I had a card on this. I was going to give you the statistics, but you probably know them.
Do you think that you demonized immigrants in
Not
this
at all.
election
No, not
to
at all.
try to keep
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process.
your
No,
campaign?
Wait.
They're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of
You know
miles
what?
away.
I
That's
think
not an
you
invasion.
should- honestly, you know
miles
what?
away. That's
I
not
think
an
you
invasion.
should- honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this?
Republican legislatures across the country are working to pass bills that would restrict voting. Are you worried that if you don't manage to pass voting rights legislation, that your party is going to lose seats and possibly lose control of the House and the Senate in 2022?
What I'm worried about is how un-American this whole initiative is.
Are you gonna include the CBC, Mr. President, in your conversations with your urban agenda, your inner city agenda, as well as?
Am I going to include
Are you
who?
going to include the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional?
Well, I
Hispanic
would. I
Caucus,
tell you what. Do you want to
as
set
well
up the
as
meeting? Do you want to set up the meeting?
No.
Are they friends of
I'm just a
yours?
reporter.
No, set up the
I
meeting.
know some of them.
Diplomacy, can you define what you mean? And former President Obama warned the incoming President Trump that North Korea was the top foreign policy issue that he was watching. Is that how you assess the crisis in North Korea?
Yes. Okay, hang on a second here. Kristen,
Tomorrow they will say, Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you're dishonest people. But I'm not ranting and raving. I love this. I'm having a good time doing it.
I mean, wow.
Well,
That's a stark contrast. You mean
Well,
the
yeah.
media was told to do that to piss off the base? I mean, come on.
Well, yeah.
Come on. One is how they treat their own, and the other is how they treat an outsider. That's how I see it.
Well, that's a little.
This is just some kind of clever game that I just haven't caught on to yet.
Yeah, it is because it is a
When
game.
have we ever seen that? Oh, I guess because Trump is the divider. He's the divider, right? Because
That's
what-
exactly
bullshit,
what,
man.
That's exactly
he
why,
has
that's
he has
exactly
more
why they
people
put him in.
supporting him than any other presidential
that's-
candidate
But see,
in
what I-
history. If
Okay,
he's
but
the
you don't
divider,
have-
it's backfired. It's completely
Well,
backfired.
again,
No,
look at
I
this.
mean, come
They've
on, man.
painted
It doesn't
him-
go
look,
along with your philosophy. It's like you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It
What I'm
just doesn't
saying-
work.
Okay, give me a minute to finish. What
I
I'm saying,
cannot
what
see
I'm
that.
saying,
I just
okay,
can't see it.
what I'm saying is that they've
And you have zero
he's
evidence for
playing a-
anything you
he's
say.
playing-
It's just
he's playing a-
speculation.
he's
I'm
playing a
dealing with
role.
what I'm seeing.
Okay, well, what you're seeing is a clip put by an obviously right-wing leaning,
But we've seen
they're
Trump
looking
press
as-
con. We've seen both
but
press
all these-
conferences, and that's
Okay,
how they
but
go.
here's the thing. Okay, Trump basically they see what MSNBC wants to paint Trump as. They want to paint him as this big boogeyman when what he was doing there was essentially he was just being who he is, and he was just kind of being brash, and there was nothing untoward about what he was doing with what he was doing.
Well, he just
But the
gets
whole
ti-
thing. But
he got
here's the
tired of
thing.
being constantly attacked. He just
Well-
got fed up with it.
Well, again,
He had no
the point-
respect for this lying media because that's what they are.
Well, yeah, as it should be. But again, the point is that what I'm saying is that the media is painting him as this divider, and
Yeah.
because of that, they're this is only the surface narrative. The surface narrative is that, you know, the media was trying to paint Trump as this big divider and he was ripping the country apart. But the whole thing, even by using that language, they're seeding. You got to understand, Mark, how they use language, even if you outright reject and they're coming from a ridiculous premise, they're still seeding that psychologically.
Oh, I agree with you that the media is doing that. I agree with you.
And my next point is that, and they tried to play it, and they're still trying to play it where Biden is this big, you know, oh, he said he was going to be a uniter when everything he did was the exact opposite, you know, and it's obvious to anybody who can critically think. But my point in saying this is that this is, like I said, this is the theater. Everything I've laid out is the theater.
But we've never seen this kind of theater before. They protect their own.
Because
they
again,
protected Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama.
The reason you haven't seen it before is that this wasn't part of their game plan before, and this is what they're doing. Again, I'm looking at this. I have no real dog in either of this, in any of this fight, because the plain and simple truth is that, you know, I said it last week and I'll say it again, what they could really be doing, you know, they've got all this drama of, okay, is Biden going to even make it to is he even going to make it to November? Whether even he makes it is still really not is not the point, really. And they're trying to make,
I mean, they'll replace him with another psychopath, you know? I mean,
yeah, but again, hear me out. What I'm saying is that they're still going to take this whole selection thing, and they're going to make, they're still trying to make people feel, you know, this is, again, comes down to one side against another. If you're on one side and you're against another side, it's still dividing people.